Hey everyone, welcome to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, where we highlight everyday humans doing crazy amazing things, people just like you and me who use their time and talents and resources to give back, pay it forward, and just do all around good things to make a difference. I'm Katrina Carlson.
And I'm Jefferson Denham. On today's episode, we're going to talk about your habits. Well, yours, mine, everyone. Mm-hmm. We came across two interesting articles that delve into this subject, how we can look at good and bad habits and how brain science can play a part in our creating the kind of habits and behaviors we want versus being slaves to bad habits that we don't want.
Definitely. And then we'll be having a conversation with Tom Bagamane, who is the founder and chairman of The Giving Spirit. It's an amazing organization. The Giving Spirit is based in Los Angeles, and it's focused on helping our fellow citizens who find themselves without a home and in need. The Giving Spirit organizes thousands of volunteers to distribute necessities such as food, clothing, toiletries, as well as helping instill hope at a time when so many people are feeling lonely and lost, really. So the Giving Spirit most of all reminds us that we're all connected and really lets us see the human in everyone.
Right. Mm-hmm. In addition, we'll also be bringing you stories about some other crazy, amazing humans that are doing wonderful things to make a difference for good, both locally and around the world.
Oh, yeah. And as always, we want to make sure that we stay connected with you. So please don't forget to write us at crazyamazinghumans@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts and comments. We'd also love to know about anything crazy amazing that you or someone you know have been doing, anything that's just inspiring you.
Right. We want to make sure that we're always giving you the most uplifting and inspiring stories and practical information. We are on a mission, right, Kat? We are on a mission to inspire you and remind you that you are crazy amazing.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy, crazy amazing. I want you to feel.
Part 1, habits. They're not just for nuns anymore.
Well, why, Jefferson? No, they're not.
I heard that they help you fly, though. No, I'm kidding.
So, habits. Why do you do what you do, right? Are there things that you wish you could do more of, like exercising, eating healthy, spending more time with friends? Or are there things you wish you did less of, like impulse shopping or overworking or spending countless hours in front of a screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you done? Because I thought you were just describing me. Yes, the answer is yes. So since we are always on the lookout for helpful things that we can share with you, our lovely audience, we came across two interesting articles online that piqued our interest. The first article is from NewYorker.com by Jerome Groopman called "Can Brain Science Help Us Break Bad Habits?" God, I hope so.
Me too.
The second article was "The Science of Making Positive Changes That Stick" on thriveglobal.com, written by Good Habits, Bad Habits author Wendy Wood.
Right. So basically, we all buy into the idea that we need to have willpower. And so we should just be able to decide we're going to do something. And then if we're good and we're strong, then we're going to be able to succeed. But that's kind of like a self-defeating thing, right? Because...
Well, yeah, it's a myth. Okay, so we all think that that's it. We see people that aren't achieving, right? And we think, oh, they just don't have enough willpower. There's something wrong with them.
Why aren't they listening to like, just do it? Or just say no or
And
things
so
like
these two articles are saying that is not where change comes, right? That's not where habits are changed.
Right. And something like 50%, according to Professor Wood, right, from the article, about 50% of what we do is simply a habit. It's something we do from a habit.
Exactly. We think, yes, the cognitive part of our, being present, thinking about, physically thinking hard about, I'm going to lift this up, or I'm going to ask for a raise, or I'm going to propose this Thursday, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Those parts of our lives, which we think are completely us, are only half the story, as you said.
And that's like executive decision making, right?
Executive decision making, right.
So our minds have multiple separate but interconnected mechanisms that guide behavior. And so we're all aware of this executive decision-making ability. And we kind of get our identity from that, but it's not necessarily really who we are or who we can be. So,
I just say one more thing, too, about the thing, just do it, the willpower, which is a myth. you end up feeling terrible about yourself.
Yes, you do. Because
Why can't I do what they're doing?
Right,
Why
because,
can't I
like,
achieve? You know,
you can stick to that diet, like that perfect eating, maybe
Right.
even for like a month. Like
Right.
you've got it, but like, can you make that part of your real life, of your real habits, of what you do? You have to tweak your environment, things like that. First thing
Right.
they say, make bad habits inconvenient. So
Right.
how do we do that?
Well, the whole thing was too, didn't the article say that good habits and bad habits both come from the same place?
Yes,
You
that's what they
create
said.
a routine,
Yeah.
right?
And they're going to be created by your environment, good or bad.
Right. And so,
So-
if you want to do something different, if you want to make a change, it's not like, okay, I got to willpower my way through. It's change the triggers, right? Change
right.
the,
And what about the marshmallow experiment?
Oh, right,
that they
right,
talk
right. So
about?
you may or may not know this famous experiment
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was done, I think, in the 60s, where they had, I don't know how I would do, I'm just thinking about this, but they would take children and put a marshmallow in front of them. And then they'd say, okay, if you can, we're just going to time you and we want to see how
if you
much
don't
willpower
eat that
you-
marshmallow for like 20 minutes or something, then we're going to give you 2 marshmallows.
Right,
at the end.
right,
They were
right. You're gonna
saying things
be
like that. You're going to
rewarded.
be rewarded.
Then they realized if I take the marshmallow, now the kids know the marshmallows exist, right?
Right, right.
But they take it and put it out of sight so you
Right.
can't see it.
Right.
All of a sudden, everyone did great.
Everyone did great. They just got distracted by something else. They did something else, and
Right.
everything's fine. So changing your environment's so important.
Huge.
Taking out what might be giving you bad habits. Obviously, that's easy to talk about food. You know, don't keep the cookies in your cabinet. You're going to eat them.
Right.
Right. But also, then they talked about friction.
Friction.
Yeah.
I love this concept
Yeah,
of friction.
The friction. So we can make bad habits more inconvenient, right?
That's right. So
And-
this one, the guy who wrote the one story said he's addicted to his phone, right? This is his addiction. And he says he tried everything to try to not give into it. And then he realized what I got to do is just get this out of sight, out of mind. So we turn it off. When he,
And turning off creates the friction a
right,
lot.
Right, because then it's
Then
like,
you have to turn it back on. Like, oh, I want to check my
It's just-
email. Not so
right.
easy to do
And
because
they-
you got to turn it on first.
because there's
My
a-
phone takes like 30 seconds to
I
turn
know.
on. And they also use the college students and they
Right,
get out of
right,
the
yeah,
dorm. Don't
you're
like
right.
be laying
So-
in your bed and doing homework or whatever. Get in the library where you're going to actually do work. Things
Right,
like that, right?
Right, exactly.
So make bad habits hard. Make good habits easy. Take away the barriers, you know, that keep you from doing the good things, or create reasons why you have to go do the good thing. Like, okay, you're going to make a date to work out with a friend, or replace one bad habit with another. That's the
Right.
other one, right?
So there is a
Yeah.
cognitive element to
Right.
starting a new habit. Sure, there is. But at some point, it just becomes ingrained in you. And now that's just what you do.
Right.
It's like second nature, right?
So they talk about the way you can replace one bad habit with a good habit is you have to identify what the trigger is creating that bad
Right.
habit. So he talks about how in the afternoon he always wanted to go get the cookie, right?
That's right.
He'd go and get a cookie and eat a cookie, but he realized that the reason why is he was going to maybe the room where everyone like at his work were socializing. He realized really what I wanted to do was interaction. I wanted to get up from my desk, have some interaction. So he, instead of going to the kitchen and getting another cookie
Right.
at the work kitchen, he would go to his friend's desk instead. And so he started creating human connection so that he would visit friends instead of go visit the sugar.
No kidding. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So if you can just identify what's triggering the bad behavior, and then what is the ultimate want that you want to have, right? And go, okay, there's a different way to get there.
Right.
And then create a good habit around that.
Right. So she talked about also the stepwise strategy for, let's say, her cell phone. So she said, recognize your dependency on whatever that bad habit is.
Right.
Acknowledge how the habit disrupts your work, your social interactions. In this case, your safe driving. Control the context cues, meaning identify what triggers you to grab the phone.
Right.
For Jerome Groupman, who
Yes.
was in the other article, the cues were oral, like the ping, the French horn, and visual, the pop-ups
That's
and the
interesting.
screen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was the whole out of sight, out of mind thing, which is putting the phone on silent.
So
Wasn't
hide the
enough.
marshmallow, people.
Yeah. And so it wasn't enough to break the habits. Instead, he hid it in other rooms, whatever room he wasn't in, the glove compartment in the car, put it in
right.
zippered pockets, things like that.
So you're not even seeing it.
No, you're
right?
not seeing
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
turning the phone off completely, because then it's like more friction to turn it on
Right.
and then get back and like,
Even
I
though
need
it's
to answer that
nothing.
one email.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then I have to, it's so true, because I don't want to turn my cell phone off. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, because I just don't want to, I want to leave it on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And we
because,
recognize,
yeah.
you got to give yourself a little more
So-
friction.
Right. So there you go. I mean, these were pretty helpful hints.
I love
think.
it. I love it.
I'm going to apply these.
Yeah, hopefully you guys found it
Yeah.
very helpful as well.
Yes.
We're going to be trying it out, so we'll be
Yeah.
checking in with you
We'll
about.
check back. We'll circle back on this one.
We'll see how we do.
Part 2, the giving spirit. Hey, everybody. We're here with Tom Bagamane, and he is the founder and CEO of the Giving Spirit. and the managing director of Profitable Good. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm great.
Thanks for being here. And well, let's just start with the Giving Spirit. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So the Giving Spirit is a 20-year-old nonprofit that the mission has been the same since day one. It's to do two different things. One is to provide survival assistance to those in desperate need, where they stand, where they live. And we believe we've done a pretty good job of it in terms of understanding the needs of sustenance and hope that these folks desperately need. And in a city that is on the front page of almost every newspaper in the world regarding homelessness, it's their cries for help have been heard, and over these last 20 years, and it's been a great ride on that side of the house. The second half of what we do is what we believe to be our growth area, where we really can be even more impactful to the longer term solution around poverty and homelessness, and we've created a really great education and awareness platform. I mean, at the end of the day, we are an education platform. I mean, the kits are just simply a door opener to conversation, a dialogue of reality. So netted out, we're in the truth business. We've always been in the truth business, and it allows us to have neutrality when it comes to the issue because we don't take sides. We just allow people to bring whatever baggage, whatever stereotypes, whatever concepts and preconceived notions they have around poverty and homelessness into our world, and then explore the stories and the lives on the streets, and then let them come to either their current conclusion or hopefully create a new crease in their soul.
Well, that is amazing.
I like that.
I know that you are from the Washington, D.C. area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Your mom still lives in the same house that you grew up in.
Yes,
is that correct?
She does.
You know, Katrina also spent some time in Washington,
I lived
D.C.
in D.C. Lived
Oh, yeah?
in D.C. after I graduated from college.
Where did you live?
I lived in Falls Church.
Yeah, I'm from Arlington. That's just down the street.
Yeah, we're really close. Yep. And we just played in D.C. at the National Cathedral about a year ago for one of the screenings of the film The Heart of Nuba. And so we love D.C. D.C. is where my husband proposed to me. It's the first place we had a home as a married couple. Yeah, I love D.C.
So the National Cathedral was my home church for over a decade. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, every Christmas Eve Mass at the cathedral is legendary in our family. I mean, it's 25, 30 years of Christmas Eve Mass.
But that's beautiful.
It's
so beautiful.
It's hard to describe how amazing it is.
I bet.
Yeah, God is in the house for sure.
So because we were thinking about how you were raised and how you sort of, developed this giving spirit, if you had any influence, any mentors or influence from your childhood. You mentioned once about like your community and how you really have always had a real strong sense of community, maybe growing up. And
yeah, I mean, again, we as immigrants, my parents always were looking for ways for us to quickly assimilate, so
from where? Can you give us even more backstory?
So yeah, my parents are both from South India. My mom's from Bangalore, which everybody knows. It's the IT capital of Asia, basically.
Wow.
And so she's a city girl, and my dad is a farm guy. So he grew up on a coffee plantation, and so in a granite farm, back in the mountains of southeastern India.
So how did they raise you when you were in DC? I mean, what kind of things did you all do, or what was their influence upon you?
Well, I mean, because they were brand new to a new country, and it was tough in many ways because they also were men and women of color, and so growing up in the South, Virginia, I mean, DC is still south of the Mason-Dixon, as you know. Mm-hmm. So and even during that time, it was DC was very white male dominated, and so. We faced discrimination. They faced discrimination. They were denied, seats at restaurants, all those kinds of things, before we were born, actually. And so, by the time we were born, my dad was really very clear about the mandate in the household. So they stopped speaking their own native language because they didn't want us to have any accent or any predisposition to some kind of dialect that could get us in trouble. And they just said to us, in their own way, just go for it. Do whatever you want. We'll support you.
But you recognized it as like they were trying to make some kind of gesture of sacrifice for you.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. looking back on it, I totally understand, and it was protective. I was to be very protective of us, so we wouldn't get ourselves caught in a situation. I mean, I was still bullied every now and then, but you can't stop that. But at least you can give your kids a little bit of a hint or some inside scoop as this might be happening. So that's why we're doing this. And that's not something that just goes away. That stays with you, for your life. So I got all the black jokes. I got all the ethnic jokes were, basically in my lap.
Well, this will be a topic that we'll swing back to with your company as well. But
Right.
I wanted to ask you about, because something that we were looking at that we thought was kind of fascinating was what finally got you on the path that you're on. So it was a Christmas, I guess your sister was back from college. Could you unpack that story for us?
Yeah, so I was, this is when I was in the fashion business in DC. And so when I was coming home from a dinner meeting, I believe, downtown, if you remember DC, it's, the number streets were perpendicular to the avenues. And so I was coming down 15th Street going towards Constitution Avenue. And it was crossing Pennsylvania. So you have the White House to the right, you have the Treasury Building to the right, and the Old Ebbitt Grill, one of my favorite haunts, to the left. And then the brand new Reagan office buildings had just been put up. The beautiful new buildings at the time. And so it was December. It was a really cold, kind of wet kind of evening. And so I was just, my sister, I wanted to get to my parents' house because my sister had come back from grad school for Christmas. And so I'm going through the intersection, and I look to the right, see the White House lights, and then I look to the left, and I'm passing the Reagan office buildings, and I see the steam grates that are surrounding all these big new buildings. I said, wow, and there's all this billowing steam and junk that's just coming out of the grates. And I look closer, and it's all these, and it's like that, the clouds part, and you see all these people living on the grates. And I looked at that. And I looked at where I was, and I looked at the Treasury Department building right across the street, and I said, I got mad, I got furious, and so that it was like, this is such a dichotomy, or what's the right word I'm looking for? It's the irony killed me because and so we just went home. My sister was just, beat from traveling from Chicago, laying on the couch, waiting for me to say, like, Merry Christmas. I walked in, didn't say Merry Christmas or anything. I walked up to her and said, no Christmas presents this year. So we're taking care of those people. And to her credit, she kind of did one of those double takes and goes, okay. And so we did. So we pulled our Christmas money, and I went to the Army surplus store in Manassas and bought Army blankets, and then we went to the local Safeway and filled a bunch of grocery bags full of provisions. And some of the things we still give today. In the middle of winter, we took our dad's old Buick station wagon, and we went out in the middle of the night in December when it was the coldest. We would just casually just walk up on these folks while they were sleeping, wrap them in a blanket, put the provisions at their feet, and then run off into the night, because we didn't want them to think it came from anyone else.
Wow.
And we wanted them to just realize that humanity had not forgotten them, and that there were people that were looking after them, and they hadn't disappeared. And that's been a piece of the DNA that we've carried into our, when I moved out here, is that it's never been about us.
And something you touched on is how now homelessness really is a touch point for the whole country. It's national news, Los Angeles, where we are. So tell us a little bit about what that means.
I think the interesting, and again, the irony of the situation here that we're facing and that we faced in 1999, the numbers are basically the same. I mean, when we started at that time, the numbers were between 75 and 80,000 that were unsheltered and homeless in
really?
LA. And that number is basically the same. I mean, I believe that the census is way underreported, and there's many reasons for that. I mean, they're not.
What do they say, like 50,000?
Yeah, I believe it's 25 to 30% higher than that. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to any of our agency partners, they'll all say absolutely. They even think it's higher than that. Nobody's wrong in this. It's just that it's impossible to go to every motel room, knock on the door, and see 3 families living there. Mm-hmm. So 2 of those families are homeless, right? You can't go to a house in the suburbs where you have 4 generations living there and saying 2 of those families are probably, or 3 of those families are homeless, right? So that's the truth, right? Yeah. And you can't go to every car window, knock on it, and see if somebody's sleeping in that, because so that those things are occurring all over the city. And then you have all of these people who I mean, women, for example, and their kids, families, you're not gonna find them because they want to be hidden. They don't want their children to have any kind of visibility to the predators that are out there. So they're purposely going to be avoiding any kind of census takers. And think about it. I mean, they don't want child services to come take their children away too. And so same thing with animal services. You have a lot of pet owners and dog owners that want to keep their family together. So they're not going to be out in the open to be their numbers being taken because they don't know that if these people are good or bad.
Right.
So the numbers are basically the same. But the difference is when we started, homelessness was really downtown for the most part. A little bit on the beach, some in Santa Monica, and that was it. But it was thick. And so Skid Row back in the day was 3 or 4 times what it is today. So most folks said, it's over there. And so it's really not our issue, but we know it's bad, but it's not here. The difference today is that almost on every street corner in every community, no matter if it's the Palisades, Malibu, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, Santa Monica, there's an encampment or there's an individual that's looking for shelter and comfort on the street. And there are more people that are entering homelessness at a faster rate than back in the day. And it's because of, it's very expensive to live in this city. $2,250 or $2,300, I think, for a 2-bedroom apartment. It's the average rent. And if you think about it, if you're a single mom and you have 2 kids and you're trying to find a place to live and you don't have great credit, so what is your landlord going to ask for? Cash, right? No checks, cash, and it's first and second month's rent. So that's $4,000 that you have to find a way to save, qualify for an apartment, fill out the application. The things that we take for granted that we do
car to
without
get
even
somewhere.
the
bus system.
Right?
It's
absolutely
okay, but transportation.
And then she has her kids, so that makes
Childcare.
School safe. And so she gets. At the end of the day, it's so challenging for her. So what is she? And so until she can do it, then she's going to be living wherever she can to protect those kids.
When you started the Giving Spirit, and actually, let me just fast forward to what you do now. What do you do? What do you do with the Giving Spirit?
Yeah.
How do you help combat? Because this is a huge problem, and I know that you just met with the mayor. And so, what is it that the Giving Spirit does that goes after this problem?
Our secret sauce is really that we've stayed focused and not diverted from our mission. And so, for someone to believe that they're worthy of assistance, who are worthy of help and care, they have to feel better about themselves. Their self-esteem has to be returned to them. Through our outreach, our in the street, on the ground outreach, we do that. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories of people that we knew were on death's door.
You can. Tell us a story.
Well, our biggest success story in terms of what's been reported is our friend Ezzy Ritchie, who you read the LA Times story that was done on him a few years ago. And Ezzy, again, Army vet, was an accomplished athlete in high school, college graduate, father, grandfather, just a good old guy, and he had twins with his wife, and they both died tragically, I think within a few months after birth. And so it changed his life. He became depressed. He lost his job. He lost direction, and his attitude started changing about the world and about his family. The fact of the matter is, he found himself in Los Angeles. He's from Alabama. Found himself in Los Angeles because he had family here, so he came out here, looking for a new change, a change in his life and a new start, and bounced around a little bit, had a job here, job there, couldn't keep it because he still was in his head, which you can't blame the guy, but there was nobody there there was no parachute for him. And this is the recurrent theme of why people become homeless is, and we have community, we have family, we have churches, we have, friends and neighbors that won't allow us to slip that far, right? If you don't have that, he was contemplating coming to Santa Monica and just saying, enough, ending his life. And so we met him at the West Hollywood Food Coalition in the summer of 2013. And we work with them in the summertime because they do a big group feeding there, and so we hand out our kits and we get to know the folks and hang out there for an hour or so. It's a wonderful experience for our volunteers and for our friends. And so as he walked up just like everyone else and to get his kit, and then I looked at him straight in the eye and said, "Hey man, how you doing?" And he's like, "Are you looking at me?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, my name's Tom. What's your name?" Ezzy. I said, "So where are you from?" "Alabama." I said, "That's cool. Are you a big Crimson Tide fan?" I mean, yeah. And said, "So what brings you out here?" "I'm hungry." I was like, okay. Well, just know that you're not alone out here, and that we're here because we love you, and that's the only reason why we're here. We don't want nothing from you. Just know that you're not forgotten, and you haven't disappeared. And so he takes his backpack, puts it on his shoulder, and turns. And Jim Underwood, another one of our volunteers, is there with another hand saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And he goes, "Who are you guys?"
Wow.
So then takes Jim aside and tells him his life story.
Oh,
and
wow.
then by that time, most of the crowd had dissipated. And so all of our volunteers now are around him. And he's got this huge smile on his face. They're high-fiving. He's laughing. And so we said, "Look, where are you going?" "I want to go to Santa Monica." And I said, "Well, great, we're going that way too. We don't ever do that. So that's not what we do, okay?" But I broke the rules for this one time, just to put him in the van, and we took him to Santa Monica, and we got the name of his caseworker at the VA.
Wow.
And I said, Jim, and I said, we're going to make sure that we don't lose track of you, right? And so we hounded his caseworker, and we did keep in touch with him. And long story short, he qualified for all these disability benefits because he was a disabled vet. They immediately found him housing. Got off the street. He lives in the same place that for the last 6 years now. He's a huge advocate for us. He volunteers with us all the time. And he said, basically, if you hadn't shown up, I would not be here.
Wow.
And that's tangible proof. But see, we're not the only ones that need to be able to do that. Everybody can do that on a daily basis. And so the great thing about our brand is that we're a noun and a verb at the same time, right? So we take your giving spirit, and the giving spirit does amazing things with it. But that doesn't mean it has to happen with our events. I mean, what we teach children is, this is a decision that you can make every day. So if you see somebody that's sitting by themselves,
This is what I like.
you see somebody sitting by themselves at lunch day after day, then the narrative should be, you saw somebody alone on the street. What's the difference in seeing somebody alone in your own school, in your own lunchroom?
There was a UCI United Way report that said if you're chronically homeless, you're costing the taxpayer $100,000 a year. And that's if we did nothing, didn't lift a finger. If you gave them housing and social services, you cut that in by half. Is that right?
The average EMT call for a homeless person, for the ambulance to go, the EMT guys to work on that person, take them to the hospital, $1,500. Okay, that's the average, right? And so if you have a person that's chronically in there, say 10, 12 times a year, do the math, right? And if you take that same, and then that's before they enter the hospital and get their care.
Right.
So that's exponentially goes maybe 2-3 times for every visit. Going back to what we talked about, putting a pin in that initial discussion around, the difference in time and in security and having parachutes, right? It's so 40% of Americans cannot withstand a $400 extra cost on a monthly on their monthly budget. If they get their transmission blows or somebody gets sick, $400 a month, done. They become they go to food stamps, welfare, and on the streets. That's 40% of this country. A lot of times when I speak, I'll do an exercise and I'll say, raise your hand and keep it up if any of these issues have impacted either your family or somebody that's close to you. Okay. So we start talking about, bad divorce, loss of a child, loss of a job, mental illness, addiction, spousal abuse, the hands continue to go up and they stay there. And there's 3 or 4 more others that we can talk about. But so they all, at the end, I say, so look around the room, and they're all looking at each other. I said, yeah, we're all the face of homelessness.
Yeah, they are us.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are
And that's
us.
why this theme is so important,
Yeah.
because that's so going back to what makes us different and what makes us special, and why the mayor wants us to be on the front lines of some of this stuff, is because the reveal, when the reveal happens, you see the change in people. I've had dads come up to me with tears in their eyes and say, my children are teaching me things that I've been wrong about all these years.
Are teaching the parents.
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the reveal for the actual volunteers
Yes.
to see what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, see what homelessness really is.
when they
The
find
face of it. What are so what are some of the misperceptions of homeless?
that they want to be homeless.
I've heard that one.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
they want to be down there.
Oh yeah,
Free
yeah.
and easy,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah.
We're just going to mooch off the government. Ha ha. That's the giving spirit. So let's say some of our viewers are not in California. What do you suggest they look for? Like, I know for you, what is it, like 90% of every dollar goes directly to the efforts on the street, which is quite amazing. But when people are looking for an organization to be a part of somewhere around the country, what are the sort of like boxes they need to check, let's say?
Pick something where you can actually touch and feel it, and that you can learn from it. That'll change your way of thinking, or accelerate your way of thinking in terms of making a difference. Don't just write checks or go to and sit quietly while others volunteer. Really roll up your sleeves and get into the work. And so, and if you're dealing with human beings, there's a lot of great causes that don't deal with humans. But then when you're dealing with humans, then hang out with the constituents that you're trying to
Serving
affect,
yeah,
and push on these organizations to put you on that front line in a safe way, obviously, but because that's where true learning happens. We call it immersive learning. We put people we take people out of their comfort zones and immerse them into the
We love
subject.
that phrase, by
Yeah.
the way, immersive learning.
That's very
a
good.
cool
Well, it's experiential, like anything. When you do it and you're involved and you see it, touch it, feel it. Yeah, makes all the difference in the world to be there.
And I think, again, one of the unique things that we do on the learning side is that it's not just us that's learning. It's those that receive are learning that society has not forgotten them, that people do care. And the folks that do want to remain homeless, there are folks that don't want to come off the streets because they see how we treat each other. And they said,
Wow.
look, I'd rather live out here with my peeps,
Wow.
because I see how you treat each other. I see you treat dogs better than you treat people. I see you arguing about stuff on the streets. I see how you treat me. You don't even know me. You know if I'm, and these are well-dressed people, well-dressed. They're cleaned up and they're sitting on a park bench doing art, and they're homeless, right? And you judge me because I don't live in a house. So how are you going to judge me if I'm living next to you and I don't do something that you don't like? Here I feel safer out here. So what does that say about us? Truly.
No, it's very impactful. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Oh, absolutely.
And with Giving Spirit, why don't you just tell our listeners how, if people are here in Los Angeles, they can get involved?
So thegivingspirit.org, is a great place to go. We have volunteer opportunities at our 2 public events. Next year, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. And so next year is going to be a huge new year for us in terms of our growth. And so we're going to be adding more professional staff. We're launching a brand new women's initiative in December, focusing on the issues that specifically affect poor women and girls at every strata of society, and then how we can affect them materially as well as societally. How we can learn about being at the source, and trying to mitigate factors at the source to prevent girls and women to be so vulnerable to something so tragic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tom.
For your hard work, and you are a crazy, amazing human.
Yes, thanks for being crazy amazing.
The crazy part I get. Not the amazing part, but definitely
You're
for
all
the
of
crazy
it.
part.
We're
For
all a
sure.
little crazy. That's why we're here.
You can count on me to be there when you fall. I put you on my shoulders, body, soul, and all. I'll give you what you need, nothing but the best, because I've been blessed.
Part 3, calling all crazy, amazing humans.
So our next story is one that I'm sure Tom Bagamane would be thrilled with. As I'm thinking everyone would be thrilled with this one, right? We file this story under what we call crazy, amazing kids. This 9-year-old boy buys 100 sleeping bags, socks, and food for the homeless.
What?
Yep. Okay. So this just came out in blacknews.com.
Okay.
In Birmingham, Alabama, Ethan Hill, a 9-year-old boy, is being applauded for his efforts of giving back to the community by helping the homeless. He recently purchased 100 sleeping bags and food for the homeless.
You said 9 years old, right?
Yeah, he's 9.
That is
It's
so
crazy.
cool.
So for 2 years, for 2 years, he's been helping the homeless every holiday season by giving sleeping bags and care packages.
Wow.
In his 3rd year in doing so, Ethan is trying to make sure he could get to help more homeless people. So he set up a goal of buying 100 $10 sleeping bags.
Okay.
So they set up a fundraising campaign on Facebook to raise funds for the homeless. They've raised $6,500, people.
Wow.
So
Ethan,
I know.
you are a rock star.
So cool. His advocacy caught the attention of the city of Birmingham and Mayor Randall Woodfin, who described his efforts as servant leadership at its finest.
No
So,
kidding.
yeah, he wrote that on Twitter. And the Academy Sports and Outdoors reached out to Ethan and offered him a $1,000 shopping spree to contribute to his initiative. And the store opened early to accommodate Ethan so he could purchase sleeping bags, gloves, cold weather socks, hand warmers, meal assortment buckets, and more for the homeless.
I'll tell you what. Now, tell me if you agree. It just seems like when you see someone taking the initiative, especially if you're 9, and he
know.
started, at 7 years
Yeah.
old then? People come
These
out of the
kids are
woodwork
amazing.
going, how do I help
No,
this?
it's the heart of these kids. They really can
Oh
see
my
things
God.
for what it is. You
No
drive by
kidding.
someone who's homeless and you see that.
That's fabulous. So yay, Ethan. We're giving you a big shout out.
Yes.
This next story, we're just going to put it under the category of crazy, amazing scientists because there are some out there.
Yes, there are
And here's
many.
one. This is from England. A 65-year-old professor responsible for helping to develop a new ovarian cancer treatment.
Okay.
So she was on a team that created this. Has donated all of her profits. Check this out, to charity. All of her profits. Now you might think, what is that? $10? No biggie. Okay, so since Newcastle University sold royalties for the new drug, Professor Nicola Curtin is her name, used her 865,000 pounds, that's $1.2 million,
Wow.
share to launch the Curtin PARP, which stands for Passionate About Realizing Your Potential
Love
Fund,
that.
at the Community Foundation. The fund will support a range of activities to help people to develop the skills, talents, and confidence to overcome barriers to employment or education. Priority will be given to those that need it, like carers, she says, disabled people, homeless folks, people who are experiencing disadvantage that prevents them from realizing their potential. This journey has made me reflect on my own life, she says, and it seems wrong for me to benefit from this financially.
Wow. That's a bit of a tearjerker.
Oh my gosh. I'm proud that this research will change lives, and I have everything.
That's really cool.
Check this out. Yeah, go ahead.
Because, it's not like she had to have it totally connect to what it was. She just said, I want to help people.
Right.
So she's like, I'm getting this from this, but it's not, and then she's taking it and putting it over here where she sees the most need. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
You're so
I kind
right,
of thought,
Kat.
okay, she's helping cancer patients only or something
Right.
like that. But
no, she had a
this
passion for
person-
yet
yeah,
another
she wa-
thing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Holy mackerel.
So you don't have to always have it really
Right, completely
yeah.
connected. It's what it speaks to your heart, right? And so she says, I'm proud that this research will change lives, but I already have everything I need in life. Wow. Think about that. She says, I got a good job, a loving family, a nice house, but in society, there are many who do not have this.
Yeah.
So rather than just take 1.2 million and say, hey, I got a great family, I'm going to really let's buy a vacation or whatever. She goes, I
Right.
don't even need it.
No, that's
So I'm going to give it to people who do. And I think that is fabulous. So she says, I want to leave a lasting legacy that will change lives for the better. And she went on to say, I don't think any scientist, or the ones she knows anyway, are not driven by monetary considerations. She thinks that she's won the lottery, and why not donate it? Because it was all by luck. She says, the fact there's tons of teams that do these kind of research projects, not everybody has the breakthrough that this team had. So she says, it's just like winning the lottery.
Amazing.
So they're not in it for financial gain. And if she can make another segment of the population better off, That's fabulous.
That's amazing. She's a crazy, amazing human.
She is.
So if you want to read more about these crazy, amazing humans we just talked about, and Tom Bagamane and everyone else that we've talked about on this or any of the articles, please visit our website where we have all the links, and it's crazyamazinghumans.com. So that's our podcast. We want to thank Tom Bagamane of the Giving Spirit for being with us today. Thank you, Tom. And all those people who volunteer with the Giving Spirit. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast, you think it would be helpful for someone you know, be a crazy, amazing human and let them know about us.
A couple of quick reminders. We definitely want to hear from you and stay connected. So make sure and sign up for our newsletter by sending us an email at crazyamazinghumans@gmail.com. That's crazyamazinghumans, all one word, at gmail.com. We'd also love to hear your comments, questions, and suggestions.
For sure. In fact, if you know any stories about a crazy, amazing human that's making a difference in the lives around you or around them, please let us know. We just might feature them on our next episode.
And make sure to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We've also videotaped the podcast, so you can check us out on Katrina Carlson's official YouTube channel.
Right there, you'll see all the Crazy Amazing Human podcasts. And most of all, we want to thank you for being here with us. Remember that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy, amazing human experiences, one person at a time.
That's right. So this week, we want to encourage you, like we do every week, to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world. My name is Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Katrina Carlson. See you next time right here on the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.